Welcome to For the Artists, a podcast initiated by Creative M Projects. I'm your host, Melissa Sharee, and I'm here with guest artist Eric Seats, Grammy award-winning producer. I love saying this intro.
Hey,
Oh, and I got a new one this week, a man of
what is,
many talents. Hey, drum roll.
hey,
And you could do the drum roll.
what is,
Dun-dun.
thank
Anyway.
you. Welcome
So,
everybody.
yes, welcome. All right, so we are here this week. The title of this week's message is It Ain't an Obstacle. And you know what we're talking about? Why don't you tell them, Seats? Give them the one word.
Procrastination.
Procrastination. All right,
Thank
so
you.
listen, we
Yes.
all know that procrastination is when we delay and
Uh-huh.
put off, okay, either for the last minute or after the deadline has already passed,
Mm,
get something done. That's procrastination. We all know what it is, okay?
big time. Big time. Yeah.
Now, I looked up something for us, Seats. According
Okay.
to Psychology Today, they gave the top 5 reasons why people procrastinate. And so we're going to get into a little bit about that. We can add to the
Mhm.
list. We can expand on the things that they have said are the top 5, but I'm going to break them down for you. Number 1 is
Yeah, for sure.
absence of structure, okay?
Okay.
Number 2, unpleasant tasks, meaning those things that we don't want to do because they don't feel good or they're boring or they're uninteresting. Oh Lord, don't hold on. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to the expanded. Let me just go through the list. 3, time. Time is another reason. And you know what they mean by time? They mean there's too much separation between either the reward or the punishment or the consequence.
Okay.
Okay. The
Mhm.
fourth thing is anxiety. And then the fifth thing is self-confidence. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, shoot. Where are we gonna start this week, Seeds?
So,
Procrastination.
hey, that's a nice list. And I clearly had thoughts after every all five. So where we should start is absence. Elaborate on that, Melissa. What did you gain from that?
The absence of structure.
Yeah, absence
Listen,
of structure.
I think, okay, this one I think is big for artists. You know why? Because it's always about like, oh, I'm a free spirit. I flow, I blow with the breeze. You know what I mean? But it's
Mhm.
like, listen, if you don't manage your time, if you don't get disciplined about the things that you need to do daily,
Eee,
that's the absence of structure. I
that-
mean,
yeah, yeah, and or the lack of a routine
lack of
eventually.
a routine. Yes.
And everything that we talk about is just not the creative process, but I can only imagine that this applies to a bunch of different types of scenarios. But the absence of structure or the lack of any kind of what I thought about immediately was fundamental kind of there's fundamentals in place when we're doing things. So structure, meaning foundation,
Mhm.
meaning having I get when you have a foundation, you know what you're building on. So starting from the bottom and working up. But yeah, the absence of structure, yeah. Wow, that's powerful.
Listen, you know what? As you were speaking right now, you know what came to
Um,
mind?
what's that?
Okay, so I thought of, for some reason, it dropped down in my spirit, a broken home. When you have a situation where there's a broken home and there's an absence of a parent, whether it's the mother that's absent or the father, sometimes that automatically creates an environment where there may be a lack of structure. Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought of that, but
yeah.
it takes more, you know what I mean, for an individual to find their way into structure if
Uh-huh.
a parental unit, either one or both or whatever, is not to providing that at a young age. Because remember, we live out what we learn, and if we don't learn it from home, we've got to learn it from somewhere else,
Correct.
you know.
Correct. Correct. And everything is going to be a custom scenario. So eventually, the uplift or the encouragement should be whatever you're coming from. Eventually, hope that you're aiming at fixing it or recovering or being the change that you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that you don't like or can't understand, but that's why there's the importance of different units as far as associations and alliances that we have with other like-mindeds to get, so you don't feel alone in whatever the dynamic that you're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
like this.
Yeah.
And just freely elaborating on, and having questions and answering questions and getting around, just making sure you're not feeling alone in your approach, right? Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, so many.
So many. We could go on forever.
Mhm.
But we gonna move on to number two, which that was brought up, which was unpleasant tasks. So let's talk about some personal experiences here, because listen, every week I introduce you as Grammy award winning. Now let me get tongue tied. Producer, right? And that seems real like, ooh, I mean, like, who wouldn't want to be a Grammy award winning producer? That just seems like living the life. It's golden. You skate and things are good and groovy. And that may be the case. However, I'm
Mhm.
sure that you have had to put in the work and do things that were unpleasant in order to get to that place. So, can you maybe share something, an experience?
I will share this from experiences, past experiences of my own. Um, what I've learned is everything will be custom, and there hasn't been a formula. And so the unpleasant experiences, I guess, my earlier expectations of what I thought others should have been doing on my behalf, whether they were hired or not. Um, I guess really kind of getting laxed in certain areas and not doing your own research, if you will, about a certain matter. And really just kind of putting too much faith in other people as opposed to putting faith into yourself and your own actions and being accountable for your own outcome.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time you think that you're supposed to not have to pay attention to different things, but I guess along the way, what I've learned is nobody's going to care about your mission more than you do. And so that means that even though you might be paying a management or an attorney a percentage, their approach about the project or the idea is not as strong as yours still. They're just employed. And so, but there'll be a limit in that employment. And what I'm learning is I've had to, the unpleasant part of it is having to become or thinking outside of the box or thinking outside of my creative zone, if you will, as a creator or whatever your artistry is, whether you're writing or you're producing. And you can't do that all day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't play the drums all day and think to have that ability will allow me to be consistent in my work. That's not, I've learned that that's not going to happen. And what I've had to learn and gain from those unpleasant, actually, ah, a lot of it has been fear too. So when we think of something as being unpleasant,
Mm-hmm.
we automatically associate it with something negative that we don't feel like doing probably, or don't feel like that's too much. Um, you at
Yeah.
least want to scratch the surface and know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm gonna tell you, okay. So take for example, you came. In fact, you performed with me one time, but at the warehouse, okay.
Yeah,
Now
Marine.
the fun part is actually getting up there to share your gift. When I get to get up there and sing, and everybody's there, and that's the fun part. That's the
Yeah,
pleasant part.
you
But
know what?
all the unpleasant stuff that happens before that part, oh
You had
my
you
goodness.
I've watched you book it so that your artist, community, you weren't ahead of your own management, or booking the warehouse yourself, and then whether it was a referral or whatever the case may be, you solidified the nights. You ran the night. You had to you were managing a band, and scheduling things. So the many hats that I watch you run around and wear, and I don't know if you attended any of my Next Great Drummer events, you can see that we have to get there first. We set up, we get everybody in place, then we get up on stage and host, and then we got to tear it all down at the end. And I'm the first one to get there and the last one to leave. That's what you would kind of experience. That might be unpleasant to some that can't imagine themselves doing that, but at least in the beginning stages, it might be that. And then, you know what? I won't even say in the beginning stages, because it doesn't matter what I've accomplished in my careers. I'm still doing such things. And I don't mind doing it. And I know better than to have a problem than to want to get there earlier enough to make sure it's okay. And then close it down and make sure it looks like better than it did when I got there. That's just concern, right? And investing in yourself. So that's the hard unpleasantry stuff that the independent people get it.
Yeah. I mean, sitting there and having to put together an email list of the people that you want to invite to come out, that you want to, get to buy tickets, right? Creating the flyers, like all that stuff. That's where procrastination can easily creep in, because it's not stuff that I particularly like to do. It's very time consuming. However, if I choose to procrastinate and not do those unpleasant things, I mean, it shows up in the result.
It does. And it always will, and it always does. That administrative part of it is what it came later, the understanding of you can't just do this. You have to do this too. You have to do this. And then the more you do it, the more everybody will believe in you. And it'll get it easier along the way when they see that person's not going to withhold anything and they're going to give their all. So I've learned, and that's a good lesson though. It's the best college ever.
But I like something you just said, because you said you finally have like come to an understanding in terms of those things that, that need to be done. And I think that is a key, I think, with procrastination, in terms of being able to, I guess, be successful at not procrastinating, is being able to have a bigger picture, a greater understanding of how everything comes into play and how important everything is. It's not just it's not just sharing your gift. You got to get people there. Like, it's just as important, that communication piece, to get people there,
This just transitions into the third explanation of it all: time. Time, and if they say time is money, the less time that you find yourself investing in the very thing that you claim you want to be successful at, and you're leaving, and you just this entitlement or expectation of somebody else should come along and facilitate it for you. That has been a very overrated thing, a mindset. And I guess everything at the end of the day is a mentality to the approach. It needs to be a mentality that, number one, is bigger than you. It's better than you. The whole ideal of it is not something that you're benefiting from, and this comes with maturity. So time is still all appropriate under time.
Right.
The older we get and the more we mature in our craft, we're like, we should be the only ones investing in our own ideas anyway. And so whatever we're talking about. And so it makes sense later, but time is the only thing that allows that. So that's very fitting. Time is everything. And then there's a time and place for everything too. But give time some time, because time is precious, but I don't take it for granted anymore. It really don't, because oh wow. How do you take good advantage of your time? Because you do it very well.
Well, thank you. Okay. Because I'm not so sure that I'm always taking advantage of my time. But I think, you know what? I realized, okay, so this week is interesting week for me, because I celebrated my birthday, and then in the same week, thank you, we put my grandmother physically to rest because she passed, right? And so the thing about death is, like, it's just so eye-opening to me, like, death is always an opportunity to reshift your focus, at least for me. Because it instantly, like, kind of sobers me up and puts into perspective the reality of, we only have so much time. We don't know how much time we have, but the time that we have, like, that's all we have. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, we really do have to make the most of our time and redeem it, doing the things that matter the most, the things that are of most importance, right? And only we can determine that with the help of God. You know what I mean? In terms of what maximizing our time is and what we should be doing with our time. And
Hmm.
so I think for with procrastination, I feel like, because even for myself personally, when I've lost sight of the urgency of taking advantage of the time that I have now, just thinking that I have so much time, you know what I mean? Especially when people are young in age. Oh, I have so much time. I'm only 12. I'm only 13. Actually, you don't know that, because what if you're only here till you're 17 or 18, you
Correct.
know? And
Correct.
even if you were to live for a very long time, you still have to make the most of the time that you've been given, do everything that you can with that time.
Hmm.
So I try to remind myself of that often, because like, for real, time is life, time is precious. We don't get it back. Like, it's now 4:48. We're not going to see 4:47 again. It's done. It's gone.
Hmm.
you know? And so procrastination it's almost self sabotaging when we procrastinate, thinking that we have so much time because we don't know.
I posted something just this past week. Time waits for no one,
Mm,
and I know that to be true. And it's just it's too precious to take for granted, and actually to just it's taught me a lesson. It just appreciate even the subtleties of your limbs. Just being able to raise your hand another time, another morning to stretch,
mm-hmm.
to get up and walk across the room. If that's why I like to monitor. It doesn't matter how much one has gained monetarily wise down here on this earth. That doesn't determine happiness. That doesn't determine freedom. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't determine a lot of things. But the one thing that we can take, or not take for granted is that time. Time is just like you said, is precious. And then going into number 4, that
Number 4.
I didn't write it all the way out, but what was number 4 again?
Number 4, anxiety.
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 Yeah.
That's a good one. Basically, being anxious. I mean, that's tied to fear. You kind of touched on that a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, being fearful
That,
of what we cannot do, what we can't obtain.
that's where teamwork comes into play too a lot of times. So you don't have to. I really feel like I get a lot more done with the help of like-minded individuals, another team, and especially a well-rounded team. Meaning, I'm the only one that does what I do on the team, and somebody else does. They bring something to the table that's valuable, called time and experience, and professionalism. So that helps out with the anxiousness a lot, and it takes a lot of pressure off of one. Just having,
That's a
and
really good solution, team. Yeah.
yeah, it takes it to, just like this. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier to it's easier to do things with an alliance or a team, a club. There's just power in numbers, right?
Right. And you know that new trendy word is you got to have your tribe.
Is that trendy?
I feel like it's trendy. Everybody
I'm
uses
gonna
it
use
like,
the
this my
word.
tribe, this my tribe.
I'm gonna use the word ancient. That term has been here since before all of us. So tribe is, I won't even call it a trend. That's an ancient value. Tribe, and I call my kids tribe. But I was doing that before any trend. I don't
That's
know
your tribe, your
what I.
team.
I don't follow trends. I don't follow trends. We set them around here. So I didn't even know that was going on. But yeah, tribe is. There's a bunch of terms. Family, village.
All of that.
Um, the corporations. It feel everybody wants to belong to something, Melissa.
Mm-hmm. That's
In
true.
this life, we all, whether we're artists, we still want to belong to something, having an audience. That's belonging. Having patience, having customers, having these are the things that allow us to use the term successful. You
Mm-hmm.
can't do one without the other. So us singing on stage or playing on stage without anybody in front of us, that I don't know how good we should feel about that. But the more people you can gather, with your delivery and with your approach and the energy that you exude, That's when I feel good to be able to gather a crowd, and you should too. Yeah, because you know what it takes to gather a crowd?
A lot.
A whole daggone lot. And it takes energy. It takes going back to time being one. It takes anxiety. It takes unpleasantness. It takes absolute
Right.
man. Look, all of these things, all inclusive.
All of these things.
This is what when I pray for wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
That's to not to claim insanity by making the same mistakes over and over again, especially every decade. Every 10 years, you're supposed to be a different person. And that's in your artistry as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the same stagnant spirit or growth that you were 10, 20 years ago, and with time flying by us like it does, you're your own problem.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get back to that. We're going to get back to that very statement. But real quick, I have to ask you, okay, now Seeds.
Yes.
Tell me, is there a very specific time you can remember when you were afraid, when you had fear, and it kept you from doing something that you needed to do? And can you give us a little something?
I'll tell you, I'm human and I've had fear, but thank God that I've had just enough faith to counter the fears that I had.
All right.
So the fears that I had initially, I guess if you're going to claim to practice being faithful and exercising your faith, then that fear needs to be lifted. No matter what level you're at, when you use that term faith and you look at what it means and what it entails, you eventually have to apply it. You can't just be walking around here saying I have faith and don't exercise it. It's like saying, you ever see people that say, hey, I've been working out, but you look at them like, oh no. You didn't have to tell me you're working out. I should have told you or asked you, you've been working out, huh? You didn't have to convince me. So when you're doing it and when you're exercising it, it eventually will expose itself, the transparency of it.
Right. Yeah, right. That's true.
Because so yes, fear has been here, and I've been visited by, and I'm still. We're always gonna. I won't call it even fear anymore. I graduated from that term. I might second guess it, but I'm not walking around here fearful about anything. Mm-hmm. Because that's not faith. That's oil and water. It's either or. Shit is no gray area. It's black or white. What you do? What do you do? What do you don't do? It's that alone. You can't be in the middle straggling the fence like tipping, tilting. No, it's either or. And so the fears that pop up, a prayer happens, poof, be gone. Let me walk in this faith and let me see what happens. So
that's the encouragement, because you got to that place.
I don't have a mic to drop, but I'm gonna drop
the mic. So y'all hear that? You have to get to that place by actually like putting into practice your faith. That's how you get beyond the fear. That's how you do it.
Exercising that faith that you've been talking about.
Yeah. And then, so the last one is self-confidence.
Self-confidence.
Yeah. So
you elaborate on that.
Oh my goodness. You know what's interesting? I mean, I feel like from a very young age, I've always kind of gone like it's like a seesaw. Was it seesaw? Teeter-totter, back and forth. You know what I mean? Like 1 minute I'm confident in myself, the next minute I'm doubting, specifically as it relates to talent. Because here's the thing with my own personal experience. I can't say this for everybody, but it's like, so with singers, okay? I just feel like God has gifted so many people with the ability to sing. I mean, to me, it's not a very, like, there's just so many people that have that gift that can sing well, and so my self-confidence in that area has waned because I've often, you get into that comparative trap, and then you're like, well, yes, I can sing. However, there's probably nothing super unique about my voice or what I do. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really stand out because there's so many amazing people that stand out. It is that sort of thing. And I think for me, musically, that has definitely tied into times or moments or seasons when I have procrastinated and
Mhm.
chosen not to move forward because I lacked the faith that you talked about to move forward because I was doubting myself
Mhm.
and not having the confidence, the self confidence in my ability. And I think self confidence is so key because it doesn't matter how much confidence other people have in you. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I grew up performing. So there was always somebody telling me,
Mhm.
giving me kudos and complimenting me and all that. I mean, so that didn't really validate me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because it's that inner validation that is the strongest validation that will give you two solid feet to stand on
Mhm.
no matter what. So I don't know if I answer your question, but yes, I have struggled with self-confidence and that I've seen where that has shown up
Uh-huh.
in, with specifically with music. Um,
And same with here, Liz, because nobody's exempt, I don't believe. No matter what our positions are, we could be president and still have, a little self-doubt
mhm.
to counter that self-confidence, because one of the key words you uttered was seasons. We go through seasons of feeling, it's like working out.
Mhm.
It's we go through seasons of feeling good and our regimen is on, our diet is on, everything is on. And then you go through a slump sometimes, just like, dang, I don't know whatever the case may be, but the consistency, everybody, I believe, probably struggles with consistency, whether they admit it or not. Some people, their job doesn't allow them to admit it, or they can't have that light shine on them. But no, but like I don't believe no one's exempt from that self confidence phase. But coming in, and like you, it doesn't matter what our accomplishments are. Uh, Even me as a accomplished drummer or producer, you still you might. And here's a bad thing to do when we compare ourselves to others, or
Mhm.
when we start to look and compare. And we need to be cautious of what we determine success to be, Melissa. Because if we look at success as being a stadium full of people,
Mhm.
and you don't ever make it to that stadium full of people, but you overlook the lives that have been impacted or that you have affected with your gift,
Mhm.
um, without recognizing them, because what's greater than us is God has no respective person. So when it doesn't look the shininess and it doesn't glitter, and it's not exposed with the numbers behind it or the likes or the shares, that
Mhm.
that doesn't determine success. Success is waking up another day. Success could be success could have nothing to do with your craft that day.
Mhm. That's 100. That's fact. Hashtag facts.
So seasons and days are going to be custom and different through this roller coaster called life, and that's so the acceptance of it needs to
Mhm.
be okay too. And like I said, be cautious of what we determine success to be, and quit comparing someone else's. Just because it's televised or exposed, it doesn't mean that that there's some line that they cross called made it, that they don't wake up. There's somebody that did something very huge today that might second guess something that they did very huge today.
Mhm.
There,
Yeah.
and I guess that's called professionalism and perfectionist, because I think it's a healthy thing too to look and say, you know what, I guess I could do this better. I think when we stop thinking that way, that's like dying too soon.
Mm.
But I think when we wake up and say, or it could, or you could determine it to be a healthy competition, if you will, to say like, oh, okay, are we getting down like that? Watch what they see, what I can do next. I always feel like this, Melissa, and I say this a lot. I have not done my best work yet, and I can't wait to see what I'm really good at.
Yes.
So
I like that.
you need to say that to yourself, remind yourself that, hey, I haven't done my best yet, because I know I haven't.
Mhm.
Because everything that I get into called business, I think a lot of times, I just had this conversation with another producer, and I was like, sometimes I have to dummy down my gift just to get the job done.
That's deep.
Hey,
That sounds like a whole nother topic.
It is.
But
That's another show, right there. Right.
Write it down. But listen, so
Yeah.
I did want to highlight something. Okay. So we're talking about procrastination. Titled this podcast, It Ain't an Obstacle. And the reason why I titled it that was because I wanted us to get to walk away from this with the perspective of, so sometimes, normally, if I think of an obstacle, I think of something that has been placed in my way. Okay. Something unforeseen, right? And it's like, oh shoot, what the heck? What is that? Now I got to get past that, or I got to get over that, right? It's like something external put that there. But I want us to look at procrastination as someone else didn't put that there. You know what I mean? That's not some external force didn't say, hey, Melissa, doubt yourself. Like, I mean, there are layers, so we could go into societal things and things like that influence implement, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, like, we are our own limitation.
Correct.
And I think we need to take ownership of the fact that all of these things that we've talked about, procrastination doesn't even need to be a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a choice, and we can choose to not procrastinate.
And another thing too is be mindful of your surroundings. And you could be procrastinating due to someone else's opinion. Meaning, if you know that you have a responsibility or God has laid something on your heart, a mission, and you don't get it done because of somebody else thinks you shouldn't waste your time doing that, or I don't share my dreams with everyone. I don't know if I've said that before. I don't share my dreams with everyone because sometimes I don't want to hear the wrong feedback to deter me from the very thing that I know I'm capable of. Just because they don't understand how it can be done, that doesn't mean that it can't be done. And I'm the vessel that he chose to get it done. So if I start to consider that person's frown or their unease about the lack of understanding that they have about a dream that he's delivered to me, procrastination. So monitor, be wise enough to know when and where to share. Otherwise, you're just gonna have to show them.
Yeah.
And here's another thing: talk is cheap, and seeing is believing. So you don't have to walk around announcing anything. Just lay it on them.
You're right. Just like those muscles that we see that are evident after you've been working out at the gym. You don't got to tell nobody you've been there. It's like, boom. Oh, hey, look at that.
Like, see, nobody has to do that. It's just like, hey, but you got to tell somebody you know what it is.
Yeah. We already went there, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, Seats, we are out of time.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when we're having fun. And we gonna be back next week.
That's right, y'all. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it, because we gonna talk about, can you run though? Can you run?
Can you run? All right.
All right. This is your girl, Melissa Sharee, and I'm with
dude, Eric
Seats. We'll see y'all next Thursday. Peace. Don't procrastinate.
Right. Get it together. Stay with it.
Together. All right.
All right, one.